So good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Now we will proceed with the committee session B of the conference, the safety committee. In terms of administrative, few announcements. In case of fire, the exits are on your back, left and right. It's a no-smoking environment. In terms of breaks, we will have one in the morning, one in the afternoon, 25 minutes breaks. I kindly ask you to put your cell phones in mode silent and be careful when you exit it to be aware, considerate of your fellow delegates when you want to exit the room. And keep in mind that we are here to listen to you and to see how we can improve our product. But of course, we are here to serve you, and I hope that everything will go smoothly, and we will end up this day in good shape. So, Chair, up to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Radu. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Simon Alute, the Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, and it is my pleasure to serve you as Chairman of Committee B. It's also my pleasure to welcome you, those of you who are here with us in the room today, and those watching online, to the Air Navigation Committee B of the 13th Air Navigation Conference. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. This event provides us with a unique opportunity to renew contacts and to discuss problems of mutual interest. For this reason, it is my hope that you will actively participate in the specific discussions that will take place during the next few days. In all of its coordinated activities, ICAO strives to achieve a balance between the need for increased capacity and efficiency and maintaining aviation safety at an acceptable level. The committee will review papers presented which highlight specific safety subjects. We will discuss the future approach to managing aviation safety and the USOAP CMA methodology and tools evolution. The Global Aviation Safety Plan, GASP, and the Global Air Navigation Plan, GAMP, are complementary documents that provide opportunities for ICAO, Planning and Implementation Regional Groups, PERCs, and Regional Aviation Safety Groups, RACs, to coordinate their respective analysis and monitoring efforts, as well as to facilitate implementation of SAPs in each region. The committee will review papers presented which highlight current safety targets, focus on effective and efficient regional collaboration, and the resulting discussion will provide inputs to the 2020-2022 edition of the GASP. As you can see, we have an intense couple of days ahead of us. Therefore, in order to be efficient, I would like to propose to you the following working methodology. At the beginning of each agenda item, I'll make a brief introduction of the subject to be discussed, including the sub-items to be addressed. In order to focus the discussions, the working papers have been organized in batches that will be displayed on the screen. Then we'll proceed along the following lines. To ensure that we are all on the same page, the batch to be addressed, as I said, will be displayed on the screen. Then states and international organizations will have 2 minutes to introduce their papers. Time is critical, so I would like to ask you to please respect the 2 minutes allocated time slot. I'd like to highlight that according to the rules, papers presented by international organizations need to be seconded from at least 2 states before they could be considered by the committee. All you need to do is to press the microphone button to show your support for a paper presented by an international organization, and it will reflect on my screen here. And please note that we will not introduce information papers. It's just for your information. We will not discuss them. Finally, I'll open the floor for discussions at the end of each batch of presentations, and I'll summarize the discussions according to my notes. I hope you are all okay with this proposal. I see no objection. Thank you. So we'll proceed accordingly. As you know, our committee will look at agenda items 6, 7, and 8. So we'll begin with agenda item 6 this morning. And it is on organizational safety issues. This agenda item focuses on ICAO's evolving safety strategy, which includes global planning, promotion of a proactive approach through the implementation of safety management, ICAO's continuous monitoring activities under the USOAP, and adaptation of a state safety oversight system to the rapidly evolving aviation industry. Agenda item 6 is divided into 3 parts. 6.1 is on strategic plan, 6.2 implementation of safety management, 6.3 monitoring and oversight. So we'll start with 6.1. The first sub-item deals with the strategic plan and focuses on the vision and overview of the Global Aviation Safety Plan, GASP 2020 to 2022 edition, enabling safety performance monitoring, goals, targets, and indicators in the 2020-2022 edition of the GASP, the Global Aviation Safety Oversight System, GASOS. The first batch of working papers will address working papers in sub-item 6.1.1 and 6.1.2, which relate to the GASP. I'll now invite the Secretariat to present Working Paper 29, Revision 1, on the GASP, following which states and international organizations will be invited in a particular order to do their presentations. So, Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Working Paper 29 by the Secretariat presents the draft 2020-22 edition of the Global Aviation Safety Plan, document 10,004, which sets forth ICAO's safety strategy in support of the prioritization and continued regional and national aviation safety plans. In Resolution A39-12, ICAO Global Planning for Safety and Air Navigation, the Assembly recognized the importance of a global framework to support the safety strategic objective of ICAO. The Global Aviation Safety Roadmap presented in the draft 2020-22 edition of the GASP serves as the action plan to assist the aviation community in achieving the GASP goals. The conference is invited to agree to the recommendation 6.1 on the draft 2020-22 edition of the GASP presented in paragraph 3.2 of this working paper. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Martin. I will now invite the United States to present working paper 123.
Morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am pleased to present this paper on behalf of the United States. The United States strongly supports the continued evolution of the Global Aviation Safety Plan as the high-level framework to strengthen safety worldwide. This serves a critical purpose in aligning global efforts towards the improvement of safety. The United States applauds ICAO's work to update this strategic plan as a means to improve aviation safety worldwide. In the United States, We work tirelessly toward a more proactive safety culture, both with the aviation community and within the Federal Aviation Administration. Additionally, industry's commitment to share innovative ideas, embrace systems safety, and place value on compliance has been critical to our efforts. As the aviation system and its components become increasingly more complex, we know that our oversight approach needs to evolve to accommodate the future state. In the last few years, the United States has been shifting to a risk management-based approach for its safety oversight responsibilities. To continuously improve, it takes collaboration, communication, and common safety objectives to allow the government and industry to come together to identify system hazards and to implement safety solutions. Safety culture is not just a set of programs that can be established or implemented. It is a way of living and working, and it requires the open and transparent exchange of information. That, in turn, requires mutual cooperation and trust. Aviation safety is and must always be our first priority. Therefore, the United States recommends that the conference support the revised version of the Global Aviation Safety Plan and the recommendations contained in Working Paper 123. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to present this paper on behalf of the United States.
Thank you very much, United States. It's now the turn of Austria on behalf of the EU and its member states and other member states of the ICAO to present WP 43. Austria, you have the floor.
Who's going to present on behalf of you?
Okay. Since you're not ready with WP 43, we go straight to WP 135 to be presented by Brazil on behalf of the SAM states.
It seems that Poland. Poland.
Hello?
Poland,
yes,
you have the floor.
Sorry. We will present on behalf of the European Commission instead of Austria. Mr. Chairman, I have the pleasure to present working paper number 43 on behalf of the European Union and its member states and the other member states of the European Civil Aviation Conference and Eurocontrol. We acknowledge the considerable work that went into developing the 2020-2022 edition of the GASP. The 2020-2022 draft edition stresses the importance of safety risk management at national and regional level and promotes the establishment of cooperative regional safety programs. It highlights the key role that regional safety oversight organization will play in achieving the GASP goals. Firstly, we invite ICAO to initiate an alignment of the GASP and other ICAO plans to implement a consistent approach to capacity, security and safety-related matters, preparing the grounds for unified aviation safety risk management framework considering the total aviation system. The alignment of the GASP and the GANT may start with the smooth integration of remotely piloted aircraft systems and the mitigation of cyber threats, which also provides a link to GASP. Secondly, we suggest that ICAO implements a more structured approach in relation to combining national and regional risk pictures which fit the GASP. As an example, the European Plan for Aviation Safety complements national efforts by offering a more efficient means to manage safety in the European aviation system. At the core of this process is the sharing of safety intelligence at European level in order to develop a common understanding of safety risk and implement a structured approach for prioritizing safety issues, combining the risk pictures of European states and industry. In order to fit the GASP priorities in the future and support the identification of emerging issues, we invite ICAO to develop dedicated instruments to enable the sharing of safety information, not just of raw data, and safety intelligence at an international level. Thirdly, we invite ICAO to work with states to further clarify the expectation of how the concept of acceptable level of safety performance should be implemented, how it relates to GASP goals and targets, and how it can be demonstrated in a regional context. Experience in Europe shows that states struggle with ALOS concept. In this concept, we wish to refer to working paper 166, developed by the Safety Management International Collaboration Group, which discussed the ALOPS topic in more detail, in which we co-sponsor. ICAO is requested to cooperate with states to promote a common understanding of safety performance, its measurement and its management. In this context, the safety margin or safety oversight margin concept introduced with the draft GASP 2020-2022 would need further development. Fourthly, we invite ICAO to continue the development of SARPs, enabling a performance-based approach and adapt the ICAO USOAP continuous monitoring approach accordingly. The aviation system becomes increasingly complex in a dynamic marketplace. A system accounting for differences in performance levels and creating incentives for stakeholders to strive towards the highest levels of safety performance would support the implementation of new technologies and foster safety risk and performance management capabilities in the states and industry. Such innovations, in turn, will improve efficiency and drive stakeholders towards meeting or exceeding the GASP safety goals and targets. Finally, we would like to encourage all states to improve their safety performance and meet the GASP goals at a fast pace. For those states having achieved the near-term 2017 objectives set out in the current GASP 2017-2019, future GASP editions should even be more ambitious in driving continual improvement. In particular, such states should be encouraged to achieve goals at a faster pace to generate more short-term and long-term benefits for aviation safety. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Poland. We now call on Brazil to present Working Paper 135 on behalf of the SAM states. Brazil, you have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. This paper presents the South America states' support to the GASP proposed edition 2020-2022. It provides some recommendations to improve its efficacy and to recognize the regional efforts towards implementation. Supported the approval of the minutes for the GASP 2020-2022, considering the recommendations provided below. Supported implementation of the GASP and GAMP safety objective through the regional and state safety plan, supported the SAN region SSP implementation pilot project as a means to achieve SSP GASP objectives, support initiatives that increase regional collaboration among states and industry in voluntary regional mechanisms, acknowledge the importance of RASG in achieving ICAO strategic objectives presented on the GASP, promote engagement of the states and industry organizations on their respective RASG, commend the work of the RASG as a voluntary and proactive cross-industry efforts on the continuous improvement of safety performance globally, commend the work done by the SAN and ICAO regional offices in support of the continuous improvement of the RASG-PA, and propose the migration of example safety performance indicators from the GASP to ICAO Safety Management Implementation website. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Brazil. It's now the turn of the People's Republic of China to present Working Paper 139, Revision 1. China, you have the floor.
Good morning. On behalf of China, I would like to introduce Working Paper 139. The title is Enabling Safety Performance Monitoring. The 2020-2022 edition of the Global Aviation Safety Plan specifies the goal, 6 specific targets, and various indicators for global aviation safety. The CAC has actively responded to international civil aviation organizations' requirements and has made great efforts around the goal, targets, and indicators to reduce operational safety risks. So in this paper, we have outlined the progress that China has made in this field. The conference is invited to request ICAO to encourage countries in the Asia and Pacific region to pay close attention to and take active part in the amendment of the 2020 and 2022 edition of the plan. Secondly, we request ICAO to enhance discussions and communications with various contracting states, including China, on the tools and methods of safety performance management and develop more specific guidance materials for the safety management performance monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you, China. We now invite Argentina to present Working Paper 66, Revision 2, which is supported by South American states except Chile. Argentina, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning to everyone. I would like to say that our technical person was not able to arrive, so Uruguay is now going to present the working paper. So thank you very much, Chairman. I'll give the floor to Uruguay.
Thank you, Argentina, for the clarification. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Chairman. So this paper presents the performance of the SAM region within the USOAP continuous monitoring approach and also the planning required in order to meet the strategic object of the GASP, which is related to improving effective implementation by 2028 and achieving maintaining a positive safety oversight margin for all categories as of 2022. The conference is invited to take note of the information presented in this working paper and also to consider the planning and measurement initiatives described in Section 3 of this paper, and also to promote similar mechanisms in other regions to enable states to comply with the national and regional safety objectives derived from the GASP objectives. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Uruguay. Our intrigued states that where a particular state is presenting on behalf of a group of states and that state is not present or there is a change, please notify us so that we can effect the necessary corrections. Thank you. It's now the turn of the United States of America to present Working Paper 65. US, you have the floor.
I'm pleased to present this paper on behalf of the United States. The United States fully supports the GASP and the development of the additional metric to assist ICAO under RASC in prioritizing their resources. However, the United States requests that ICAO remove the use of new safety oversight margin metric as an indicator and/or target in GASP and replace it with an alternate metric. The safety oversight margin is dependent on traffic volumes, and state margin is likely to change over time even if its oversight capability remains constant. The state could improve its safety oversight margin if traffic volume fell from one period to another without any action. The state could also have a low EI score and still have a positive safety oversight margin. Therefore, this approach provides a distorted view of the state's actual safety performance. The proposed 2020-2022 edition of the GASP relies on safety oversight margin in 3 of the 11 targets. Target 2.2 calls for all states to have positive safety margin. Target 4.1 calls for states with negative safety oversight margin to request assistance from other states or oversight bodies. Target 4.3 calls for states with a positive safety oversight margin to actively lead RASC safety risk management activities. Because the safety oversight margin is not a mature, well-understood indicator of the effectiveness of the state's safety oversight capabilities, these targets could lead states with more capable oversight systems and higher EI scores to request assistance from states with less capable systems. The United States recommends that ICAO modify GASP by removing the safety oversight margin as a GASP indicator and instead consider recommendations of the ICAO group of experts for USOAP CMA structured review to utilize a priority protocol question EI score and an implementation EI score in addition to overall EI score. This combination of scores would provide better visibility of the state's safety oversight system. The United States invites the conference to consider these recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to present this paper on behalf of the United States.
Thank you very much, United States. The next paper is WP 142, to be presented by the People's Republic of China. China, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This paper presents China's recent progress on global flight tracking. This has been a priority task for the CAC. China has established a steering group responsible for the development of and issuance of the roadmap for the development of civil aircraft tracking and surveillance system in China. And we have also worked out the short-term, medium-term, and long-term objectives to achieve that goal. And we have also established, out of the 11 FIRs, we have developed programs in the 3 of them and introduced new technologies and satellite use applications. And we also develop this intellectual property-based rights and technologies to be used. Now, we have already achieved the current target. Now, we are working on the use of new technologies, including this 4D, four-dimensional 15 tracking. We are carrying out this pilot projects. After that, we will analyze the results and work out corresponding policies and measures. The Beidou system is also playing an important role in the global tracking system. We're willing to provide further guidance and assistance to all the airlines in China, as well maybe in overseas airlines in the future. And the CAC, ADT, and PFLR are very concerned about this, and we have participated in the ICAO relevant working groups. We are also working out relevant domestic policies in order to meet the requirements by ICAO. The global tracking system as a new trend in the world aviation development is a very important matter for China. We have always worked hard to enhance our work in this particular field. And we also expect the guidance and also cooperation with other countries, particularly in the use of the Beidou system. The conference is invited to take note of China's recent development, progress on GFT. I recommend ICAO to accelerate the development policies, specifications, supporting documents related to GADSS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, China. Trinidad and Tobago is next. They will present Working Paper 227, followed by Working Paper 228. So, Trinidad and Tobago, you have the floor to present the two working papers.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. This paper presents the view that civil aviation activities worldwide has benefited tremendously from the implementation of the Convention on International Civil Aviation, and it is a time to change and to bring wider focus on the improvement of aviation and not just international aviation. The Convention as a philosophy places focus on international aviation and little focus on domestic aviation. We use the term domestic aviation herein to describe the use of aircraft in commercial aviation activities within a state other than international operation. Annex 6, Part 2, the forward gives us a philosophy that says the Annex should ensure an acceptable level of safety to passengers and third parties. Also, as some international general aviation operations would be performed by crews less experienced and less skilled, with less reliable equipment to less rigorous standards, and with greater freedom of action than in commercial air transport operation, it was therefore accepted that passengers in international general aviation of aircraft would not necessarily enjoy the same level of safety as the fare-paying passengers in commercial air transport. However, it was recognized that in ensuring an acceptable degree of safety for third parties, an acceptable level of safety for flight crews and passengers would be achieved. So, Chairman, with the expansion in aviation today, I think that focus needs to be placed on domestic operation as well, so that a passenger transiting from an international flight can enjoy the same levels of safety and security when he moves from an international flight into a domestic operation. The conference is therefore asked to review the paper and adopt an action plan aimed at changing the philosophy, which is covered in Annex 6, Part 2, and recommend that the Council review the relevant annexes so as to bring greater focus on commercial activities and so further impact the level of safety and aviation. Alternatively, the paper recommends consideration be given to the matters raised herein for further discussion.
Thank you. You can continue to the next paper.
With respect to paper 228, this paper focuses and presents an alternative solution to states struggling to satisfy the requirements of ICAO Annex 13, Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation. The paper proposes that states with less complex aviation environment be treated in accordance with long-established system used in evaluating compliance to ICAO Annex 8, airworthiness of aircraft. The paper proposes that member states develop an applicable procedure which will be far more effective and efficient and productive and will satisfy the requirements of the audit. For emphasis, states will be mandated to have and demonstrate that they have a system for accident investigation rather than a regional aircraft accident investigation organization, which will not necessarily satisfy all the requirements. The conference is invited to acknowledge that there is a real difference between the levels between developed states and states with complex aviation industries, which include aircraft manufacturing, and those that do not have manufacturing capabilities, and recommend to the Council that Annex 13 be subdivided into sections similar to those of Annex 8, such that all states can more meaningfully meet the requirements of the ICAO audit program. Thank you.
Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago. We have the final paper in this batch, in this first batch, working paper 186, revision 1, to be presented by Airports Council International, ACI. ACI, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to all. ACI created Apex and Safety in 2012 as a voluntary program to assist member airports of all sizes and in all regions to improve their level of safety and compliance with ICAO standards and recommended practices. It also assists to achieve GASP objectives, especially runway safety and aerodrome certification. Over 90, in fact, as of today, 96 airports in all regions of the globe have already received an Apex and Safety review. Apex and Safety is used to identify safety gaps and vulnerabilities, and the experts who participate in the assessment teams come from ACI's membership. Each Apex mission begins with an agreement with the host airport, and by agreement with the host airport, a review may also support the oversight functions of a civil aviation authority by allowing it to participate as an observer on an Apex mission. As observers, the state inspectors have provided valuable expertise in oversight and regulatory functions, and in return have benefited by receiving experience on airport operational safety and risk mitigation from experts around the world. The Apex and Safety program has been an integral part of the ICAO African certification project, and an Apex and Safety assessment will be required by the regulator prior to the aerodrome certification process, as it provides a roadmap to close any compliance gaps, thus paving the way for certification. In 2016, ACI launched its Apex Safety Assessor training program in the African region to develop operational safety expertise in airport staff. This month, over 20 candidates will graduate from the program as either aerodrome and ground aids or rescue and firefighting or SMS specialists. In conclusion, the support of regulators is important in continuing the growth of the program, since airports which have received a review have found that safety performance has improved when all stakeholders share experiences. The conference is invited to take note of the progress achieved by encouraging aerodrome safety through the APEX program, invite states to support the ACI APEX and Safety program and encourage their national airport operators to participate, and encourage states to see the benefits of the APEX and Safety program to facilitate compliance with regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ACI. Before I open the floor for contributions, questions, and discussions, we want to have states supporting ACI before their paper could be conceded. So if you're in support or you second the paper, just press your button and it will reflect on my screen. Okay, thank you. I see about 4 states supporting. That's enough. More states. The screen is getting full. You'll break my screen. Thank you. Thank you. So the floor is now open for discussions, contributions, comments on the papers presented. Thank you. I have Italy requesting for the floor. Italy, you have the floor. And to be followed by Georgia and Portugal. Italy.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and distinguished delegates. Italy wishes to support the working paper 123 presented by United States. The benefit that GASP, since its adoption, has brought to the aviation sector is remarkable. The coordination of initiatives taken toward the improvement of safety worldwide is also essential in order to avoid duplication and optimization of dedicated resources. Italy believes that coordination between states, industry, and other interested organizations is an added value of this approach. Italy supports GASP's proposed revision for the next triennium, and in particular, regarding the planning and implementation, regional groups and regional aviation safety groups, we support the proposed improved integration and coordination between them. However, the working arrangements at regional level should reflect the needs and priorities of each region with ensuring consistencies of their works. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Italy, for your support for WP 123. Georgia, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all. My intervention refers to Working Paper 29, Revision 1, as presented by Secretariat. Georgia would like to acknowledge the work of Secretariat of ICAO in developing the 2020-2022 edition of the GASP in coordination and with participation of states and industry representatives. We appreciate the transparent way the process was conducted, and also we do hope that the further evolvement of the document will be done in the same spirit and manner. We would also like to highlight the added value that RSOOs can bring to the GASP implementation, strengthening regional cooperation to foster state safety oversight and risk management capabilities. Moreover, there should be a common vision for alignment between the GASP, the GAMP and the newly developed GASP, as well as to secure GAMP and GASP are consistent and complementary, especially in the light of the planned ASBU evolution. When it comes to the proposed target 5.1 of the GASP, we would like to underline that the appropriate SPIs for the SMS of service providers should be developed, reflecting specific situation of each state and region, and to be tailored as of. In addition, we invite ICAO to promote a common understanding of safety performance, its measurement and management, and in this context to further develop the safety margin concept, introducing GASP in cooperation with states. Finally, we find it essential to gradually move towards a more performance-based approach in terms of SARP setting and universal oversight. In our view, this is an appropriate response to the increasing complexity and interdependency of the aviation system and is essential for successful implementation of the GASP. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. It's now the turn of, Portugal has gone off, so I invite Rwanda to take the floor.
Good morning, Chairman, and thank you for the floor. Rwanda shares the same enthusiasm for the development of a sustainable safety culture as that expressed in this paper, Working Paper 123. Therefore, in addition, as stated in this paper, allowing for coordination between PIRGs and RAGs, but ensuring that each retain independent function. So therefore, I restate, Rwanda supports Working Paper 123, FAA's recommendation to revise the Global Aviation Safety Plan for the 2019-2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Rwanda. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Canada also supports this paper, and in addition, we would like to support the following, that obviously the proposed revisions to the GASP for the 2022 triennium prioritize the development of a sustainable safety culture to enable continuous improvement in safety with the support of stakeholders. As just mentioned by the previous country, the improved integration and coordination between the PIRG and the RASG while maintaining independent functions, continuing to support the implementation of safety management by states and industry, support the work of ICAO to identify the USOAP protocol questions with focus on those that indicate direct, effective safety oversight, and finally recommend that ICAO reevaluate the proposed safety performance indicator in the GASP revision. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Canada. I'll now call on the United Kingdom to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United Kingdom, on behalf of all of the ECAC states, welcomes Working Paper 186 and ACI's initiative as an excellent example of providing practical, on-the-ground support to help improve safety standards. We would invite ACI to coordinate the APEX safety programme with other donors active in a state or region so as not to duplicate efforts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, the United Kingdom. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Australia recognises the importance of the GASP and its ongoing development to assist states and regions with their national and regional aviation safety planning, as well as its use as a key tool to guide and help prioritise ICAO and regional technical work programs. Australia would like to thank the ICAO Secretariat and other members of the GASP study group for the work undertaken in developing the current proposal for a new edition of the GASP. Australia supports the recommendations in Working Paper 29 to agree in principle to the proposed draft GASP 2020-2022. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Australia. I'll call on the Netherlands to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everybody. The Netherlands share the concerns of the United States expressed in Working Paper 65. As a matter of priority, ICAO should further develop the concept of a safety oversight margin in order to ensure the smooth approval of the GASP by Assembly 40. We believe that the safety oversight margin can be useful in other contexts, for instance, prioritization of technical assistance activities. Referring to item B of the recommendation, we would like to remind that the recommendations of the group of experts for a USOAP continuous monitoring approach structured review will be implemented after Assembly 40. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Netherlands. Dominican Republic, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chairman. The Dominican Republic wishes to support 65 and also 123 from the US, and in particular in Working Paper 123, the measure which is being proposed under C. We would very much like to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call on IAC to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's actually IATA. We've changed positions. On Working Paper 29, IATA believes that the use of the SPI catalogue is a concern because SPIs should not be dictated, but rather determined to reflect the risk of the respective operation. It would be ideal if the SPI catalogue be identified as providing examples only with recommended operational definitions to facilitate information sharing. However, there's a concern that some states are interpreting these SPIs as mandatory, and this would be at odds with safety management principles that does not follow data-driven decision-making, where data and information identifies the specific risk areas and consequently the appropriate SPIs to be monitored in the context of the operation. IATA will be collaborating with ICAO to ensure clarity on the intent and use of the SPI catalogue. And on Working Paper 123, IATA supports this paper and would like to stress the importance of it. All points documented have been forwarded to ICAO already. IATA agrees that the safety oversight margin as proposed is not an accurate performance measure for GASP. Prioritising USOAP PQs is very important in order to obtain a proper effective implementation assessment and evaluation of a state safety oversight system. The EI score alone can measure compliance, but it is not a good indicator of safety without this proposed prioritization. IATA believes that if ICAO introduced a prioritization of protocol questions to obtain a more accurate EI assessment and evaluation of a state safety oversight system, it would be a huge step forward in improving state safety performance. Thank you.
Thank you, IATA. Cuba, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Cuba supports the recommendations put forward by the Secretariat in its note in Working Paper 29 to agree in principle the project 2022 of the GAMP, or the GASP rather, and we would very much like to support what's been put forward in this committee, and in particular we'd like to refer to the Working Paper 22A. We would not support restructuring. We believe that we should take account of the different realities between those who are developing countries and those who are developed countries, which has an impact on the implementation of the SARPs and the results obtained in terms of effective implementation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Cuba. It's now the turn of Singapore to take the floor. Singapore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, all fellow delegates. Singapore supports the proposed 2020 to 2022 edition of the GASP, as detailed in the Secretariat's Working Paper 29, as well as Working Papers 43 and 123 presented by Europe and the United States respectively. We note also the views of the United States in their Working Paper 65 on the safety oversight margins. We agree that there are limits to the current formulation of the safety oversight margin, which is basically a linear regression of EI scores against traffic volume. For example, the correlation breaks down at ages for states that have very high or very low traffic volumes. In addition, the associated targets 2.2, 4.1, and 4.3 in the GASP should be reviewed, taking into consideration the points raised in Working Paper 65. The safety oversight margin is nonetheless relevant for the majority of states. It is an improvement from the current one-size-fits-all 60% EI target. States need to calibrate their safety oversight capabilities to accommodate traffic growth in their aviation system. Singapore therefore supports the inclusion of the safety oversight margin in the GASP. We have one more year until this edition of the GASP is formally endorsed by the Assembly in 2020. Singapore urges ICAO to take this time to further refine the formulation of the safety oversight margin and its associated targets, but to retain it in the GASP. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Singapore. I'll call on Portugal to take the floor.
Obrigado, Mr. Chair. Portugal would like to present our support to the Working Paper number 43, as we consider that there is a need to align the global plans of ICAO in order to prepare the grounds for a unified aviation safety risk management framework. The sharing of safety information in a consistent manner, the international and regional collaboration, as well as the correspondent instruments, would contribute to GASP implementation. Having in mind ICAO's role, it is of utmost importance the work with the Member States, the development of guidance material, and the continuous assistance on capacity building. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Portugal. Ecuador, you have the floor.
Gracias. Thank you. Good afternoon, or good morning, rather, Mr. Chairman. Ecuador wishes support Working Paper 123 presented by the US. We really need to avoid duplication of activities carried out by oversight bodies. And of course, we want to improve coordination between those oversight bodies that already exist. Ecuador supports what is said in the Working Paper. There needs to be collaboration, there needs to be integration of the regional groups that have been established to improve safety, such as the RASCs and the PERGs. Without a doubt, continuous improvement and integration of these oversight organizations will allow for improvement of the PQs and also the oversight audits carried out in the member states. We wish to support the revision of the USOAP CMA as indicated in the working paper, using the indicators of implementation elements as found in 2.11 of this working paper. Also, I would also like to support the ACI paper 186, and in particular what we have in 3.3 there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ecuador. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. The Russian Federation would like to support the United States paper number 65, as other delegations who have expressed their agreement with the proposals made by the United States in this document. In addition, the Russian Federation supports number 228 from Trinidad and Tobago regarding the investigations of accidents. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Russian Federation. I'll call on Venezuela to take the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. The Venezuelan Republic is very happy to see the development of the global plan and the improvements that are being made in member states. We would like to support WP 29 put forward by Secretariat and also 135. And we would like to support the recommendations in 1, 2, 3. We find these quite interesting to look at the prioritization when we're having a sustainable safety culture developed. And there also needs to be a collaborative approach between member states, and we need to reinforce regional cooperation. We believe all of this is very important. And we also support the positive safety culture. And we also want to support that we need to promote better integration and coordination between regional groups, the RASCs, and the PERGs within the aforesaid plans. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Venezuela. South Africa, you have the floor.
Chair. South Africa supports Working Paper 123 as presented by the USA and Working Paper 29, which seeks to improve the safety. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, South Africa. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My comment relates to Working Paper 228. There is a need for each state to have a means to carry out a thorough independent accident investigation and to have the necessary resources to do so. We accept that it can be difficult for some less developed states to fully meet the exacting requirements of Annex 13, but there should be scope to take this into account when carrying out the ICAO USOAP audits of those countries. Annex 13 already allows for the participation of the states of registry, manufacture, design, and operator, and the delegations of investigations to other AIA or regional accident and investigation organizations. The European Network of Civil Aviation Safety Investigation Authorities is developing a mutual support system whereby less developed states can develop prior plans and arrangements to draw on the support of more developed states in the event of a major air accident. This doesn't require any change to Annex 13 and has identified the importance of the sovereignty of the state of occurrence for certain aspects. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, UK. I'll call on Republic of Korea to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Republic of Korea supports the proposed Global Aviation Safety Plan 2020 to 2022 in Working Paper 29. However, also supports Working Paper 123 and 65, requesting ICAO to further improve the safety indicators for the future edition of the GASP. Safety indicators have to reflect the safety status of each state and region. Therefore, suggested safety indicators related to the use of protocols in Working Paper 65 will be an excellent item for the alternate indicator. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Korea, Republic of Korea. Rwanda has requested for the floor for the second time. Rwanda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to take the floor again. In addition to comments of support made by Singapore and other states for Working Paper 65, Rwanda supports the proposal by FAA to revise the way safety oversight margin is calculated with regards to linear regression, especially in regards to paragraph 2.7 of this working paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Rwanda. Sudan, you have the floor.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sudan expresses its appreciation for the efforts of ICAO in order to implement GASP. As for number 29, working paper number 29, we support it in the framework of the commentaries that have been made in the US paper 123, as well as in working paper 65. We also support the ACI working paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sudan. Nepal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Nepal supports working paper 29, presented by International ICAO Secretariat. The draft 2022 edition of the GASP encourages to develop regional safety plan as well as the national safety plan to the states. In this regard, we urge ICAO to strengthen regional offices through necessary resources so as to enable them to support states of the region to develop national aviation safety plan and to ensure its implementation also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nepal. Colombia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. We would like to say that we like these indicators and the efforts that have been made by ICAO in preparing for the new version of the GASP. The indicators are a source of data so that there can be an objective calculation of the safety levels. So we'd very much like to support anything that will help the member states to facilitate this common framework of safety indicators. And we support working paper 29 from the Secretariat and also 135 from Brazil, 66 from Argentina, and 186 from the ACI. When it comes 228 from Trinidad and Tobago, we understand the problem which is expressed there by the states about the size of their operations and the operational implications, which are quite low. But we consider that in Annex 13, there are solutions that are offered, and there are different paths rather than changing Annex 19. So we do not support working paper 228.
Thank you, Colombia. Yeah, we're indeed having a very lively discussion on the first batch of papers. We have 3 more requests from IATA, Council, and France in that order. So I'll call on IATA to give their comments.
Yes, it's not IATA right now, it's in the State Aviation Committee. Sorry, yes, for this mixture. Благодарю вас, господин председатель.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to support working paper 65 from the United States. Indeed, in many countries of the region, there are very different scales of the aviation business and very different momentum and growth rates. As for 228 on investigations, we would like as well to support the UK comments and mention that regional cooperation in accident investigation exists, and it is very positive. It's an experience of more than 20 years, and as the United Kingdom had mentioned, the complexities in Europe and the principles for creating new mechanisms to assist states that are not able to meet the standards for accident investigation under Annex 13. We would like to draw attention to the fact that in Europe, they have come to a more a need for a better use of resources, including when investigating accidents, as well as the fact that regional cooperation in that area is absolutely essential. Thank you.
Thank you, IAC. Council, you have the floor. Press your microphone.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all. Council fully supports the U.S. paper number 65. Council agrees with the U.S. that this metric, the safety oversight margin, should be removed from the GASP, revised or replaced with a different measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. France, you have the floor.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. We support the concerns of the United States that are found in Working Paper 65. As a priority, ICAO should be developing the safety oversight margin further in order to ensure that there is a GASP approval that will happen at the next assembly. We believe that this is a concept that could be useful in other contexts, for example, prioritizing assistance, technical assistance. Referring to item B of the recommendation in paper 65, we would like to remind all that GEUSR recommendations will be implemented after the 40th Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Franz. The final request is from ACI. ACI.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I just seek your guidance? Can I now make a comment on a comment that was made earlier?
Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This concerns the ACI working paper. And firstly, I'd like to thank Ecuador, Sudan, and the UK for their support of the ACI Apex and Safety Programme. In relation to the comment made by the UK that coordination with donors should take place, we have actually solicited support and have reached agreements on particular projects with EASA since 2016 and with the World Bank since 2015, and are actively increasing our attempts to solicit support of this nature. Thank you.
Thank you, ACI. There's one final request from the UAE, United Arab Emirates. You have the floor.
شكرا سيدي الرئيس.
Thank you, Chairman. The United Arab Emirates support the working paper presented by the countries. All of the countries have been very constructive in their presentations of the problems and very valid solutions. The working paper from the European Union groups also has our support in particular, as it deals with practices that are being used in European countries and the difficulties that these countries run into when implementing the principle of efficiency and effectiveness in safety performance, then the measures taken in that respect. And in another working paper on the expansion of competencies of the working group studying, this is a study group for the GASP. Thank you.
Thank you, UAE. Zambia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia also wishes to support working papers 1, 2, 3 by the United States and working paper 65, and also the ACI working paper 186. Thank you.
Thank you, Zambia. I will give the floor to the Secretariat for any clarifications and to make their comments. Secretariat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just perhaps to provide some clarifications on 2 points.
On working paper 43 presented by Poland, we note that the action G calls for ICAO to gradually move towards a more performance-based approach in terms of SARP setting and universal oversight. This request actually covers all ICAO annexes, so it goes beyond the development of the latest GASP and its implementation. Therefore, the Secretariat proposes that this request be submitted to the ICAO Council so that they may consider the progressive evolution to performance-based SARPs and guidance material taking into account the budgetary implications. The next comment is for working paper 65 and the use of the safety margin. The proposal to include the safety oversight margin in the 2020-2022 edition of the GASP was the result of the consensus reached in the GASP study group with wide representation from member states and international organizations. With regards to the proposals made in working paper 65 on the use of priority PQs in lieu of the safety margin, the Secretariat would like to point out that priority PQs are already used as indicators in the proposed GASP, so there may be a duplication there. The Secretariat is of the opinion that the best solution would be to provide more assistance to states and industries, taking into account the concerns that have been mentioned about perhaps misuse of the safety margin, for example, taking away resources from safety. These are common issues linked to safety activities and not specific to the safety margin. Therefore, we feel that if we provide more implementation support, including through our regional workshops on the GASP, tools and clarifications on the safety margin, this can prevent the misuse of the margin by states inadvertently and also promote better understanding. This approach is consistent with the feedback we received in the GASP questionnaire, which was included in working paper 29, where the top request from states and international organizations that responded was to receive workshops and other forms of training to support GASP implementation. Removing the metric of the safety margin at this stage will not solve the issue of allocation of resources or some of the concerns raised. Rather, education and transparency in the way the margin is developed and calculated will best address these concerns. So the Secretariat will propose that at this stage, we maintain the safety margin and take this alternative, also referring back to the GAS study group for their further consideration on the best steps forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Secretariat. I think I agree with the views of the Secretariat and echoed by Singapore and other states that, yes, indeed, the use of the safety oversight margin may not be foolproof because there could be a sudden change in traffic volumes which will change the performance measure. So, as Secretariat said, there will be the need for further consideration of the safety oversight margin, and the issue will be taken back to the GASP study group to consider based on the recommendations made by the US in WP 65 and 123 and supported by many of the states. I think it's a good way to conclude on that paper. There's a need to review and look at if other performance metrics could be used. And Secretariat believes we should not do away with the safety oversight margin altogether, but it could be reviewed. Thank you very much. We still have a little time before we go for a morning coffee break. Okay, so, well, I've made some notes, and I will consider that as a summary of the discussions we've had so far. I realize there was an overwhelming support for the draft edition of the GASP, that's the 2020 to 2022, but with a general view to review the sums and consider the use of other performance measures. And Secretariat clarified that the use of priority EIs is already in the GASP, and it will be looked at. So my first conclusion, based on our discussions, is that there's a need to urge states to agree in principle with the draft 2020-22 edition of the GASP, with the inclusion of GASP goals and targets. Then, based on what I said earlier, there's a need to review the use of the SOMs as a performance measure, and the issue will be taken back to the GASP study group for consideration. And Secretariat talked about the GASP questionnaire, which I think it's important. It's attached to the WP 29. And I look at the date for submission, it was August this year. We are in October. So for those states which have not completed the question, I'll urge you to do that. It's like ICAO wants your feedback yesterday. And so it's still not too late. Secretariat states still give yes. So I consider that questionnaire very important because it shows our endorsement of the gas process. And all these inputs we provide will be collated and it will help refine the GASP and for consideration at the next assembly in September 2019. So I'll say that there's also a need to request ICAO to take into consideration inputs from the conference and the GASP questionnaire for subsequent endorsement of the 2020-2022 edition of the GASP at the 40th session of the Assembly next September. Okay. With regards to specific requests regarding Annex amendments and the review of specific processes, you remember Trinidad and Tobago raised questions on amendment to Annex 13. There's an agreement to recommend that the ICAO Council be requested to review these items. That is what I have so far. But there'll be a full report of the various agenda items after we finish considering them, and that will be more detailed. It will reflect the spirit of the discussion. So thank you very much. Do we have any further comments before we break for coffee? We've all worked so hard. We deserve a cup of coffee, don't we? Okay, I see none. Yeah, I see none, no comments. So we will have a 25-minute coffee break, and it will be sponsored by the United Kingdom. It's just served outside at the foyer. There are many tables, so do spread yourselves out so that we can have coffee quickly and come back within 25 minutes. Thank you very much. Just a final reminder, it is forbidden to smoke within the building. If you need to smoke, please go outside and make sure you come back within 25 minutes. Thank you very much. Enjoy your coffee.